welcome to My Life Without Limits. Another wonderful episode today. Hopefully you guys are staying warm. I do want to welcome the wonderful co-host and the brain of the podcast, as I always said, Leah Eisen.
Yes.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Doing good.
Are you staying warm in this weather? It's kind of cold.
I'm always warm.
Okay, good.
I'm 45 tomorrow. I feel like I've for the last couple of
Oh,
years
yeah,
I've
your birthday's
been
tomorrow.
warm all the time.
Forgot your
I
birthday's
think
tomorrow.
some things are happening in my life.
What are you doing? Are you having a cake? What are you
Oh,
doing?
I don't know.
No?
I don't
Okay.
know.
Well, if you're having a party, you know who to call.
I do.
And it's not the Ghostbusters, it's me, okay?
That's right.
Just saying. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I hope you have a wonderful birthday. We will see
Thank
you
you.
at the office tomorrow. So
Yes, I'll be here.
and enjoy, and I hope everybody in your family spoils you a little bit. Not only tomorrow, but the whole entire year.
That's right.
Well, I will let you introduce our wonderful guest today. We have a fantastic guest that you once again found in social media, I believe.
We met on social media,
Yeah, so I will let you introduce her because we're very excited to have her today on the show.
Yes, very excited to have an actual doctor joining us today. Dr. Alisha is here, and I'm very excited to learn more about her. I've been following her on Instagram, and we'll let her talk about everything that she's doing on there. But welcome. Would you please just fill us in, everything about you, where you're from, and all of that good stuff?
Thank you for having me. I always feel when someone says, where am I from? It's such a loaded question because I've been in Canada now for 7 years, but I am born and brought up in South Africa.
Okay.
And we decided to, as I said, move here 7 years ago. So I was an emergency room physician in South Africa, primarily. I also did diving and hyperbaric medicine. And, got married, and you kind of, started realizing, well, we're actually living past each other, and we kind of wanted to move for a better quality of life. And it had always been on my heart, even prior to me meeting my husband, that I wanted to come to Canada. And so we took the leap, and we love it here, and it's home for us.
No, we're glad to have you here. So where in South Africa, where did you live?
In Cape Town.
In Cape Town. I went when I was 19 years old. I went to South Africa with a friend for 5 weeks. Yes, her family, her dad's side of the family was from there. So we went and visited some family.
Yeah.
In Cape Town. It was, yes, what an experience it was. Yes.
It's an absolutely beautiful country. Really.
Yeah. Yeah. We went on the coast a little bit. We went to, I think, a place called Fishhook.
Oh, yes.
It was called. Yeah. We went there and met some of her cousins, and it was a long time ago, but I still have really great memories of, like, I rode an elephant, I pet a cheetah, like all sorts of stuff. It was really, really, really good experience to have.
You're skirting on the cliche where everyone wants to know, do you have lions?
I know.
In the background?
It's true. I did all of the typical touristy things. And baboons, but
so sorry to disappoint you. You're only going to find that on a safari, not in our backyard.
No,
exactly. No, not in the backyard. No, but it was beautiful. The people were just lively and wonderful. It was really, really good experience. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. So yes, you're a doctor, and then you also have the most adorable little guy.
He's the cutest, right?
Absolutely.
I'm his mom, so I'm biased, but
he's cute.
He's so cute.
He is. So what's your experience with that, with his diagnosis and everything with cerebral palsy?
Yes. So, so Aiden's story is actually, I love telling his story because, firstly, Aiden came into our lives in a very unconventional way. I struggled to fall and stay pregnant for 5 years. So I had multiple miscarriages, and we did multiple rounds of IVF, and eventually got to the point where even the doctors were kind of like, lady, you should just give this up, kind of. But again, my heart was just yearning to have a child. And, my husband and I, prior to getting married, we spoke about adoption. And we thought, you'd have biological children and then adopt, and, but then after 3 miscarriages and 5 years of fertility treatments, you kind of think like, okay, let's revisit this topic. And so we looked at traditional adoption, but that route would take us maybe 4 to 7 years.
Yeah,
even without a guarantee. Even without a guarantee that I would actually hold a baby in my arms. And I came across this group on Facebook. I always call social media my village of perfect strangers.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
Because they have supported me through so much. Just women I've never met, but have just become that village for me. And I came across this group on social media called Embryo Donation.
Okay.
Oh, this is interesting. I'm going to have a look into this. And essentially what it is other women who've gone through infertility, who've done IVF and have embryos that they haven't used, basically in storage. And so essentially in Canada, you have a few choices. You either discard them, you donate them to other couples who are struggling with fertility, or you donate them to science. And not every institute has the capabilities or the licensing to do scientific, use it scientifically. So a lot of it's discarded, or they just hang, And so I put out a post on Facebook, explain who we are and what our journey has been. And the morning I get a message from a woman in the USA saying, hey, I read your story. Do you want to chat? And we got onto this call, we chatted with her, and she gave us 2 embryos.
Wow.
And so Aiden is one of the 2 embryos.
Right.
So Aiden's story or journey I think is just so beautiful how he came to us. And so obviously I did a what you call a frozen IVF cycle, and I carried Aiden. So even though he's not related to my husband and I carried him and gave birth to him.
Wow.
Needless to say, through my pregnancy, I think I was the happiest I ever was, because this was something I've always wanted, and had the easiest pregnancy, no morning sickness, just smooth sailing until it wasn't smooth sailing.
Until it wasn't, right.
And I was 31 weeks, went into labor, went into preterm labor, and was put on bed rest for a week, and then started bleeding again the following week, and then was like, okay, this baby's coming. And just because of our journey with my obstetrician, it was always, the plan was to always have a scheduled C-section with him. And but the doctor, I was with a doctor that I didn't know, and she just kind of brushed me off, and she was like, this baby's going to fly out of you. You're 31 weeks. It's going to go so quickly. You're you're delivering a preemie. It's going to go quick. Well, 3.5 hours later, of pushing, it was not happening, and then I had to be taken for an emergency C-section in the end. And because he was now so deep into my pelvis, it was hard to extract him. So he had sustained severe head trauma. And it was, he had a 1 week cry, and he was whisked away with the NICU team. And for 2 days we just watched, because it didn't look good. Head trauma was really severe, and they said it came with a 95% mortality rate, which small chance to survive. And so for 2 days, my husband and I just sat by an incubator, just praying that he just pulls through. And on the 3rd day, he pulled through, and I was able to carry him, to hold him. And we didn't think too much about it. The 3rd, I always say, like, in hindsight, like the 3rd day and the 4th day was probably my happiest days when in the NICU, because he was around, he was going to survive, and we didn't know what was coming, and I was just enjoying this baby I so wanted. And on day 5, they did a head ultrasound and an MRI, and they realized he had a massive stroke. And from there on, it was just a watch and wait.
Yeah.
No one could give us any answers, what we could expect. We knew he was high risk for cerebral palsy. They couldn't really say what extent it was going to be. But whenever they spoke about him, they always spoke with worst case prognosis. So the stroke was so massive, affecting both the left and the right side of his brain. Majority on the left, a little on the right. They said he shouldn't be alert because of the areas of the brain that was affected. He shouldn't be alert. He shouldn't eat. We shouldn't anticipate really anything from him. And I remember a neurologist saying to me, take him home and love him.
Right.
As if, well, as if I needed to be told to do that, but
right. I know, right? Yeah. Obviously. But...
And I was like, yeah, that part I got, but what else am I supposed to do? Like, you know, I'm a mom, but I'm a physician. And it was a difficult situation to be in because I understood what they were saying, but also in my mind, my mom brain not accepting what they were saying. And a part of me was like, no, wait. Can someone just put the brakes on? You have no idea what we've done to get this baby. Like, this can't be happening. This can't be happening. And you know, so for me, there was a lot of processing of that grief and that trauma. And essentially we took him home. We were in NICU for 2 months, kind of just rolled with it. Yeah. We really left with no hope. Because, you know, you had these dreams or these visions, oh, we're gonna do these things with him and we're gonna do this with him. And now it was like, we're not even really sure what we're gonna be dealing with.
Yeah.
And kind of just, you know, that newborn phase, you're just kind of surviving it. Of course, Aiden was born in September in the middle of COVID.
Oh, right.
No support.
No.
We had no support. And so we kind of just winged it again. Immediately I got home, turned to my village of perfect strangers, moms in the US, reaching out to other people, finding out what we could do, what we, you know. Yeah. And then I think when Aiden was about 4 months old, we started noticing he had this preference just to use his left hand. And then, of course, I immediately knew, okay, so there is effects. You know, he does have cerebral palsy, even though the diagnosis wasn't officially given. And then I think I just went into a little bit of panic mode and a little bit of frantic, how do we get therapy? Because we know about early intervention and the value of early intervention. But I reached out to physicians and the, you know, healthcare workers, and we were offered one physiotherapy session every 4 weeks via Zoom. And I'm already a flustered mother. Now you're trying to show me on a doll what I'm supposed to do with my kid and put him into these positions. He doesn't like it. He's crying. I'm trying to hold the camera. My husband's trying to hold the laptop, trying to get this. And it was just disaster. Yeah. And that just compounded just the anxiety of the whole situation for us. And just feeling so helpless. Like, I have this baby that I've wanted for such a long time. It's not the journey that I've wanted. Dealing with just the trauma of the birth. The living in the space of unknown. With this baby. And trying to wing it with my husband and I. That was my support. It was myself and my husband. And we eventually got hold of a clinic that was in Ontario called Smile Therapy. Yes. And we were like, okay, we're going to get on a plane. If they'll take us, we're going to take this kid through. We're going to do everything we can. And the woman was like, we're actually coming to Calgary. And I was like, what?
Oh, yay. Yes.
It actually felt like an answer to prayers. Really, like, you know, it was the whole time I was like, show us how what are we supposed to do? You know, we've been entrusted with this child. We want to do the best that we can.
Mm-hmm.
And Aiden was 6 months old. We were the first through the doors, and we've never left, even if they want us to leave. He's there almost every day. Unless there's some other commitment. Aiden has a busy schedule, but you know, we're there every day, and he has done incredibly well.
Yeah, I bet. They're wonderful. Yeah. And then plus, I mean, he just looks like he's got so much spirit in him. Like he knows. It's like he knows exactly what you went through, and he's got to fight, you know, hard just to, yeah.
And he's already exceeded the expectations they've gave us for him.
Right.
He is now walking in a gait trainer.
Right. Yeah.
And that was not something that was on the cards for us.
Right. Because he's definitely alert. When they told you that he wouldn't even, you know, oh my goodness, like that. Yeah. That just proves that.
He highs and buys everyone. Oh. He's more pleased, and he's so cute. And so, you know, the fact that he's even mobile with a gait trainer right now, it's just incredible. And for me, that just obviously speaks to the testament of his spirit. He's got a fighting spirit, that boy, and he's driven. And that and again, early intervention.
Yes.
And so, you know, through this all, we saw all of this, and it's great, right? That my son gets all of this.
Mm-hmm.
We would do anything for him. We have made adjustments in our lives so that Aiden gets his therapy.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the thought always crossed my mind: what happens to that kid or that mom that's like me, that knows her kid needs this,
mm-hmm.
but doesn't have the means?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Exactly. A lot of people have, you know, in the past traveled to the States to do all of this, you know, therapy, and it's expensive. And then the travel, and you're right.
But some people cannot get it. Some people cannot do it. Like, depending on what, like, Canada is a great country that you can have the resources somewhat, right? Mm-hmm. But it's also, if here in Canada, it's costly for people still to take your son or daughter to therapy or to treatment. Imagine other countries outside of Canada that don't have the means. You know what I mean? So
exactly. And you know, having walked the journey and knowing how stressful that diagnosis alone is, and then you add on that financial layer, because it's not that there's no therapy. And I always want to be clear with this. There's therapy.
Right. Yes.
But is it enough? One physiotherapy session every 4 weeks via Zoom to make a difference?
Right. That's exactly it.
And so the biggest stirring that my husband and I felt was people need access to quality. Early intervention.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough to say we have these programs, but it's not really accessible.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that was the thing. And so that's kind of what created that stirring in my heart, for my husband and I both to say, okay, we've got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to do something. We're not, unfortunately, Aiden is not the first or the last kid to receive this diagnosis. And
right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I could go and do something to change that no kid ever is diagnosed with this, we'd do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we know that's not possible. But what is making sure that kids that receive that diagnosis, that there's support for them and their families.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how Hope for Cerebral Palsy was born. Was truly inspired by Aiden and I want to be the village to other people, to be support and to fill that gap. We know that there's resources out there, but we know that we can do a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to just step in and do that. And so we're like really excited. We already have 2 kids
Oh, good.
have already signed up for intensive programs with Smile Therapy. And of course, we're going to be expanding and using other clinics as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I think also as a mom, what makes me really proud is that when Aiden turned 2, we said, okay, we're going to give away 2 therapy sessions. And so for Aiden's birthday, we said no gifts. He does not need gifts. What we need is for people to donate to the nonprofit and get other kids moving and give the gift of movement. That's what we need.
Yes.
And people showed up, and we were actually able to raise enough money to fund these 2 therapy sessions.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's awesome.
And so that makes me really proud, because I can't wait to tell him one day that when you were 2 years old,
Yes,
you gave up birthday presents and you gave the gift of movement to 2 other CP warriors. And you know, and I feel like that's what my husband and I, how we want to bring up our son. That, you know, it's better to give than to receive.
Yes, absolutely. Love that. And I mean, Carlos, your mom would have loved that opportunity too.
Absolutely.
To put you in a, you know, because was there
Absolutely.
anything like that available for you when you were growing up? Probably.
Absolutely not. My mom always said that what she would have wanted is she would have loved to have a parents, like a community support outside of her immediate family or outside our immediate family, which was like my grandparents, my aunties and uncles, which if they were not from them and for the hard work that my parents did on a daily life, because they work, my dad worked 2 jobs, my mom worked jobs to be able to give me private physiotherapies every day, right? And that's even more costly than public physiotherapy. At the time in Mexico, you didn't have public physiotherapy, or if you did, the resources were not the best, right? And now it's different. Now you can find a little more leeway towards it, but she always said if she would have had the opportunity to do that, to have the resource, to have somebody who says, here are the resources that you're not having right now, she would easily take it. And just as you, Alisha, where my mom had to be a warrior, you know, had to be a fighter, because between my mom and my dad, they have to be fighters. So you have to be fighting for your kid at the time to be able to grow up to what a mom and dad would love to be in the future.
That's amazing. And that's exactly what I'm speaking to, is that private therapy is costly.
It's very costly.
So what, you know, currently now the trend is, or the evidence shows that intensives, what they call intensives, which is essentially 10 hours of therapy a week, is what actually gets the brain to make those changes. Neuroplasticity, right? Young brain can be changed. We can form those neural connections, but you need a lot of it. And so on average, a 5-day intensive, so it's 2 hours a day for a week, costs about $1,400 Canadian. That's a lot.
That is. That's a paycheck for a lot of people.
For
you
one
know,
day,
like that's
for 1 week.
For 1 week.
For 1 week.
That's a lot.
And I mean, you need at least about, you know, some people, depending on the age of a child, you know, between 1 to 3 weeks of therapy you could go at. And most kids do this about 4 times in a year. To really say, oh yeah, we really are taking advantage of neuroplasticity in that age between, you know, birth to 5 years, where we can really maximize what this kid's full potential is. And this is a thing, you know, of course, I'm passionate about it because I live it every day, right? I see it with my
Yes.
son, and this is our life journey with him and his journey, right?
Mhm.
And for me, my biggest thing is I know cerebral palsy doesn't have cure,
Yeah.
but there's ways in which we can help him reach his full potential. And so why
Mhm.
wouldn't we do it?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Exactly.
If you know you have this window period of 5 years to make a difference for the rest of his life,
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. We're going to do it, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. And then you think about some of the kids that aren't diagnosed until the age of 2, which happens quite a lot if they're not showing, like, so that's, and it's like, did you find as a physician did you have knowledge of cerebral palsy before, or did you have to go and learn about it?
Yes, I did. You are taught about it in your training, but it's such a small section.
Mhm.
But the difference comes in is that even as a physician and a mom, there's a difference in what your brain actually picks up and holds on to. And so, of course, now that my son has it, I've gone and I've read extensively on cerebral palsy. But the thing that you don't get in a textbook or in a research paper is the hope.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that's what we're trying to drive, is that it's not just like, oh, he's got cerebral palsy, it doesn't matter, just let it go.
Yeah.
Take him home and love him.
Yeah.
It's no, this kid can have a good life.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what the extent of it is. Everybody still needs to move. We are made to move.
Yeah.
Whether we are assisted or we are unassisted in our movement, we should be moving.
Yeah.
We should still have access to these resources.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And immaterial of a diagnosis and a label, that person still has a right to live their full potential. And that's what that is what Hope for Cerebral Palsy is.
Mhm.
It is about kids with a diagnosis saying, okay, we've got this diagnosis, but how are we going to get you to your full potential?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Right. Yes. And I mean, look at Carlos. I mean, you're thriving, some would say, a career, great education, and
Absolutely. And it all starts from home, right? It all starts for the guidance of your parents, mostly when you're that young, when you're 1 and 2. Your parents have to pick you up and guide you through it and give you the example. So when you're 5, 6, 7 years old, you're starting to see why they did what they did. And I think it's fantastic. What you're starting to do is phenomenal.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
great.
And are you guys like eligible for grants and funding? Is that how you're raising most of your money?
So right now we're waiting for charity status.
Mhm.
So with CRA, that takes about a year
Yeah.
to get. And so right now we're just playing that waiting game, but of course that's not going to stop me.
Of course.
We have our ways, and we have other businesses that have poured into us. And of course, lots of people hear what we're doing and have family that comes to support us. And so somehow we're doing it.
Yeah. Well,
So
you know what?
we're not going to let it stop us until we get that. And we also have, joined up with other CP organizations,
right? Yeah.
To join in the cause, because we know we're stronger when we're together.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's very true. And you don't mess with a mama bear when she's fighting for her.
That is so true. We have a group that we've started, and so we normally arrange just getting together, and it's called Warrior Moms, because that's exactly what we are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We are warrior moms, and don't you dare cross our kids.
That's right. It's so true.
And I think for me, the biggest thing is never underestimate my kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, a wonderful experience of recent was I was actually able to meet the neurologist that told me to take him home and love him and to expect nothing from him.
Oh,
So of course, you know, that neonatal phase is a bit of a blur.
yes.
We went for a follow-up appointment and I realized, oh, this is the same doctor. And of course, Aiden was opening the cupboard doors, climbing into his cupboard, and I let him do it.
Absolutely.
I wasn't the mom that was like, no, come back. I was like, you go ahead, my boy, and you do what you have to do. And he was just like, oh, wow, he's doing incredible. And I thought, yes, he is.
Yeah.
Because we didn't write him off.
That's right. Yeah. Like it almost felt like he was implying and he didn't give you that hope. And that's something that, you know.
And that's something that we had to dig deep and find that hope for us, for our son. And I think that's the biggest thing that we want to convey, and especially to other moms, to be there for other moms, to say, okay, you've got this diagnosis, these are the ropes, this is what you're going to do, don't take no for an answer. I always say that if you get a no, it's just because you're asking the wrong person.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one to live by. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, even for the gait trainer, we had to really advocate for that gait trainer. I mean, it looks like such a simple device, but they're thousands of dollars.
Yes.
And I, you know, spoke to somebody and they said, oh, do you really think he's going to need this? Because in their minds, they're thinking he's not going to walk. So why do we want to waste our time doing all of this, kind of getting a kid a gait trainer? He's not going to walk, mommy, you know, almost her saying that to me. And I was just like, okay, who do I speak to so that we can arrange it? What do I need to do to get this gait trainer? And I think she could see that I was really pushing for this gait trainer and not saying,
okay, yes, fine.
Okay. And eventually we got the gait trainer. And the first few days he wanted nothing to do with that gait trainer. Absolutely. And you know, there was a moment of like, oh, maybe they were right.
Yeah.
Maybe they saw something I didn't see, and maybe I'm just a mom and I'm being clouded by all of these things. And we just pushed through, and I was just like, nope. My husband and I, luckily it was the summer, we would hit the pavement every afternoon with my son with an iPad, coaxing him along, snacks, and just trying to get him to move. And of course we had it with him, taking him to therapy, doing all of those things. And he now loves it. He goes to his trainer, gait trainer, because he knows, oh wait, I can get around and do my thing with this. And he loves it. He's walking. And I mean, it's still early days, but I'm putting it out there that one day we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to tell you that my boy's walking without it.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk about that with Carlos all the time about how he uses his canes to walk. And I think for a lot of people, they'd wonder if it would just be easier to be in a wheelchair, but he's like, nope, not doing it.
Nope.
Yeah, you're going to keep going the way that, you know, you can and push yourself all the time.
Yeah. And the brain is an incredible thing, you know.
It is.
It's incredible, and it can adapt. You know?
You're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. No, that's beautiful. I love the initiative that you have going, and we will definitely support as much as we can, and, you know, continue getting the word out there about it, because it's important, very important.
No, I do have a question that I want to circle back though. You did mention that there's other organizations, other CP organizations, other organizations that you are trying to partner up already. Is it only in the province of Alberta, or is it all over Canada right now, or?
So right now we've partnered up with CP Kids, which is in Calgary in Alberta, but the reach that we have is for any child in Canada. And, you know, of course, we would love to extend that reach, but for right now, we want to stay local and make a difference here before we expand. So for right now, it is just local.
Yeah, no, wonderful. CP Kids families are great too. Love seeing everything. I share a lot of stuff that they do too, because, you know, it's giving kids the bikes, and, you know, a lot of their programs just get kids moving. It gets them moving when they, they should be moving. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think Aiden will definitely get a bike next year when he's 3.
Perfect. Good. Cannot wait to
awesome.
see how he zooms around on that for sure. So, well, thank you so much for talking about Hope for Cerebral Palsy. We're excited to see what happens with that. But now we would like to ask you about Life Without Limits and what that means to you. And if you feel you live a life without limits, and if you maybe can touch a little bit on for Aiden, if you feel, I have a feeling he will live a life without limits because he's going to break through every single barrier that society puts in front of him. But we just like to get everybody's thoughts on what life without limits means to them.
100%. And that is exactly what we want to bring up Aiden with, is that we don't want a diagnosis to limit his potential.
Yeah.
His value is not affected by a diagnosis. And he can do and be whatever he wants to be. And that's how we're going to bring him up. So a life without limits for him, for sure.
Yeah.
In many ways, I think Aiden coming into our lives the way that he did, to the parents choosing us, was really the hand of God, because as a woman who's born and brought up in South Africa, in a country that was under apartheid, where we were limited, and to being able to break through the limits that were put on us because of our color. In many ways, I feel, coming here and being in this country and in my own ways, breaking through limits, really taught me about grit and perseverance.
Yes. Yeah.
And to being able to have that lived experience myself, and now being able to transfer that to my son, I think is invaluable.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He will push through. He is definitely a warrior. And also about mental health a little bit, just because we also think that that's important. As a mom and as a physician, you're always helping other people. What about you? How do you help yourself?
So for me, mental health really has been a huge component in my self-care. So when Aiden was 1 year old, I was diagnosed with PTSD, just from the birth trauma and our entire experience. And, I always pushed it to the side, because I'm trying to take care of my son. He's less than 1. We're trying to do all of these things. And the day of my son's first birthday party, I had a panic attack. And I was like, oh, okay, I need to stop. I need to pause. I need to take care of myself. And I have been in therapy since.
Yeah.
And that has really helped me process everything. It doesn't take these things away, but it helps you cope with them. And I feel that it has been such an integral part of where we find ourselves right now. Not only being able to help our son, but to be able to help other people, is because we're putting in the work. I'm investing in myself, and I'm doing the hard work with myself.
Yeah, definitely.
Therapy is not easy.
No, it's not. You're right. Yeah, my daughter, she's 12 and she goes to therapy for anxiety and stuff. And she comes out of it like super hyper because she just feels so good, or she's just exhausted because she's worked through so much stuff. And it's interesting to see, it's good for her, but it's interesting to see that it can kind of go either way, but it's all good. It's all a good thing, whether she feels blah afterwards or super happy, it's still a good process. And I think everybody should be talking to somebody, Oh,
absolutely. You got to feel the feelings, hey?
Yes. You got to feel the feelings. It's so true.
And mostly at this time, because when my parents went through what I went with physio, mental health wasn't really brought up much. And I always wonder how my parents deal with the physiotherapy aspect and the whole, because as a kid, sometimes I don't know if you experience this, Alisha, but I used to scream really loud and cry a lot when it comes to the stretching and the movements and and those type of memories. I still have them in my head because they are they were painful. But as a parent, you need to let it be, because that's going to be a benefit for your child at the end of the day. But it affects as a parent too, because you're like, I can't do things. So mentally could really hit you. So I'm kind of glad that now, you know, mental health is being brought up so much, to the point of like, let's work on your mental health, let's work on you, because at that time we didn't even know about anything about it, right? So
you bring up such a an important topic. I mean, the first 2 months of taking Aiden for physiotherapy, he would cry in the room, and I would sit outside the room and cry. And that was just the way it was. It felt really unfair that my kid had to go through this. I was heartbroken because I knew he needed it and I knew he didn't want it. But I had to also be really clear my mind and say, it's hard, but we have to push through. We have to push through. It's uncomfortable, but you know what? And we would always say to him, you can do hard things. And he was still a baby. He was like a few months old. I'm like, Aiden, you can do hard things. You can do hard things. Tears running down my face. But I'm like, you can do hard things, my boy. And I mean, he has days even now where he's really excited. He loves his therapist and he wants to go to them and he loves them. And then there's days where it's hard. But again, it's I'm grateful for the support that I can get now, being able to process these emotions with a psychiatrist that I see. And I'm sure, you know, it would be something that I would definitely look at with Aiden when he gets to that age, maybe around 8, 9 years old, being able to say, hey, you know, this is a lot and I want you to see somebody. And he might be like, Mom, I don't need it or whatever. And of course, we would respect that. But if I ever got the inkling that he's struggling with it, you know, that would definitely be something that we would prioritize, because, you know, you never ever want to, you know, we want to bring him up with a life without limits. But we also need to understand that we live in a world that's also not very inclusive. And that is something that we're working on. And that's also one of the things that we want to bring awareness to, that we need a world that's inclusive. But it's not to say that he's not going to have days where people aren't. And that's going to be something we're going to have to deal with then too.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. It's true. Yeah, we're trying. We're trying to get the word out
really
there
trying.
and, you know, just talk about all these things so people can start, you know, making the changes around in the world. And that's what we're trying. Yeah, we try to do. And, you know, Cerebral Palsy Alberta is here for you guys as well. And, you know, we can, help make this road a little easier, hopefully. But thank you for sharing your story. I know that I'm sure you've shared it a few times, but I'm sure it's not any easier.
You know, I love sharing our story. And the reason I love sharing my story is because I know how alone I felt. Be it, you know, getting Aiden's diagnosis, going through infertility, having a traumatic birth, I felt really alone. And the reason people feel alone is because people don't talk about these things.
Yeah, you're right.
But if I share my story and it helps one woman not to feel alone, it's a job well done.
Job well done. Yeah,
that's all that matters.
And so that's why I do enjoy telling our story, because I feel that, you know, it starts with us.
Yeah, you're right.
Sharing it.
Yeah.
And the more you share your story, the more the world is going to change, right? The more people are going to know about cerebral palsy, about people like Aiden, people like myself who are growing to be successful, no matter what challenges life throws them on, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, and for me, I feel like, you know, the stories that we share need to be stories of hope and of love. And this is what we why we're sharing today.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll make sure that in our show notes and everything, people know how to find you, Hope for Cerebral Palsy on Instagram and everything, so they can see, because I mean, yeah, beautiful stories you share there, and just moments, right, to celebrate in your life. And the sad ones too, it's good to see the both sides, because I think when you can see something, sad that's not going so well, but then see progress that, comes out on the other end, I think that's important for people to see. Sometimes it just takes time. Yeah, just got to get up and try again sometimes. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No, thank you for being here, and thank you for all the work you do. And yeah, let's encourage people to look at Hope for Cerebral Palsy and continue to support you guys for the amazing job you guys are doing.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
thank you so much for being here, and thank you once again to all of our listeners who have been taking the time to listen to the podcast. Not only this one, but the previous ones. This one has been really amazing as well. I encourage you to listen to it, to give us your feedback, your comments, and all of that great things. And if you want to be a guest, feel free to connect with Leah or myself, and then we'll definitely be able to love to have you on our show for sure, to listen as well. Thank you so much again, Alisha, for your time. And Leah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for finding Alisha and for having her here. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And please remember to live your life without limits.
Bye-bye.